My name is Kanika. I am a special educator by profession, and I'm also the founder of this page, Minds That Matter. I started this page to spread awareness about special education and to create a network of professionals who work in this field with different aspects. So today we have someone speaking about mental health in young children. I would be introducing her in a few minutes. So the topic we are going to talk about is children and mental health. Okay, so today the topic that we are going to talk about is children and mental health. We have Mimansa Singh talking about it with us. And so Mimansa is a clinical psychologist. She is currently working with the Department of Mental Health Behavioral Sciences, Fortis Healthcare. She has over 9 years of experience working with young children and adults in a clinical setup to enhance their mental health. She has also co-authored 4 books, Raising Confident Children, talking about mental health in the classroom, how to engage with your kids while working at home, and don't worry, here's how you can keep your mind fit during the pandemic. So here's Mimansa. Mimansa, welcome on Minds That Matter. Thank you so much for being here and talking to us about mental health.
It is such a pleasure to be here, Kanika, and so good to connect after such a long time. I think that's what with college and schoolmates that we wherever you leave, you just connect back from there. So it was so good to hear from you and connect over here. Absolute pleasure.
Right, right. Okay, so I think without further ado, we should just jump in and start.
Absolutely.
Okay, so given the current situation of the pandemic, I think it would be most appropriate to start from there. So, this situation is something that no one expected. We did not know something like this is going to happen, what we should be doing. None of us were prepared, especially the children. So, what is it that the parents can expect from their children during this time, especially in terms of their behavior?
So I think when it comes to young children, they are certainly enjoying being at home. I mean, I can see that from my young
Yes.
daughter, my 7-year-old. She's children, because they need and they like a lot of unstructuredness in their environment, in their day-to-day life. We really bind them with a lot of routine and a lot of other things. Yes, routine is very important, but I think what we need to understand, that flexibility in that routine is something which is something that they really enjoy and adapt to much better. So I think,
Right.
what are the certain things that, because there is a lack of routine right now that, children have, and they are certainly not engaging with their peers in a playful way that they would do in school, and the physical activity, which is not so much right now happening. What they can expect from children right now in terms of some behavioral changes, which is absolutely normal in the ongoing time period, is a little bit of irritability, moodiness that they can show sometimes. On small things, they may just, be a bit more moody and unpredictable in their behavior. Give them 10 options, they will, agree to the 11th option what to eat, and then say, no, I don't want to eat that. That happens with me almost every second, third day. Okay.
They're
So
so
I've just almost.
creative. They always come up with the option which is not presented.
Absolutely. So So, this is something which is absolutely, predictable. I can be expected from them right now. Also, telling them saying that, they're so tired despite doing very less physical activity because,
Right,
it's
right.
more to do with the slowness of
Lethargy.
the time period. Yes. And the lack of routine where they can, they can feel that they do not have the energy to do certain things. But at the same time,
Right.
few minutes or hours later, you would see they have so much energy right now. Suddenly, they were saying that they did not have energy. Now they have so much energy. So, these are certain things that we can expect from children at this point in time that,
Right, right.
they would be showing. So it's absolutely fine. Parents should not be worried. I've had
Mhm.
questions and queries and calls from parents saying that, they're doing certain things that they would not do earlier. They're throwing water despite knowing they should not be throwing. They're, sometimes pinching. Someone is a little bit of in their irritable mood, biting a little
Right.
bit. It's something which is very, very expected and normal which by children right now. So nothing to worry
Mimansa,
at all.
there's just a request that please speak a little slowly.
Okay. Fine. I'll be
Sorry.
slow.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, so I guess they're behaving in these unexpected ways because they're so bored. They don't know how to keep themselves occupied, so they're coming up with these ways of, irritating the other person so that they get some reaction. There is some interaction that
Absolutely.
happens. Right,
Absolutely.
right.
So what they need is basically a lot of engagement from us as parents. When I look at my 7-year-old, she makes these playful ways of trying to get me into her play. So what she would do is sometimes she would act that there is there are crocodiles over here and I'm going to jump from this and that. So what do I need to do as a parent rather than saying
Mhm.
go down and just eat and finish your this thing? I become a part of that play because that's
Okay,
what she requires at that time. And the
right.
moment you do that, there is a different energy and there is a different connection that you have with your child, and their mood just become better. So if you want to continue to keep that atmosphere of playfulness and aliveness at home for children, that is
Mhm.
something that is going to be very, very helpful in
Very
the
important,
given
right.
time period. Yeah.
Okay, so you were talking about lethargy earlier and lack of energy. I've been taking a lot of online sessions for my students, and I have a lot of parents calling up and saying, "Ma'am, I am having a really difficult time getting my child to wake up and get ready for the class."
Yeah.
And they're at their wits end. Can you give some suggestions for what parents can do? Because children are definitely
Hmm.
enjoying the classes, but
Hmm.
still, the even though they are starting a lot late during the day, earlier they used to start at 7 a.m. Now their
Hmm.
classes are starting at 9 a.m.
Hmm.
But still they are having a very difficult time managing their time. So what can parents do at this time?
See, this is to do with the change in the routine and the structure which was there earlier for children, which is happening right now. One is that even if we see as adults, when we know that we are working from home, we tend to take things a lot more easier than when
Right.
you know that you have to move out of the house. So when you have to move out of the house, what do? You prepare yourself by getting ready. You get in the morning, you have this routine set in your mind, and then you look forward to the day. It's same for the children. So when they get up in the morning, get them to have a bath, or at least make them to change into some proper
Uniform.
clothes. Yes. And even uniform for that matter, absolutely, for
Right, right,
them to realize that they're awake and they have to be now tuned to their
right.
classes. Along with that, physical activity, I think a lot of physical activity is something which is very, very important for children right now. That the lack of that is also creating a lot of lethargy, because it's about, again, how children can just be a bit more engaged in day-to-day activities, and creating really space for them to have the home environment.
Right, right. We have our students, we tell them that you need to definitely take a shower, make your hair properly, and wear the school uniform so that they
Yeah,
get that feel that, I have school going on at this particular time.
absolutely.
Like we also dress up very formally for taking our classes, even though it's the upper half of the body. But that's really important to get that feel that, this is a formal session that is happening right now.
True,
Right,
true. But
right,
because that's how the mind signals,
right.
if we are going to be half dressed, then our mind is also going to work half. So we dress up of the bottom and
Right, right. So
Are you having disturbance in the this thing, or am I getting the
I
disturbance?
can hear you
Okay,
clearly.
perfect. All right.
Right, right.
So
So,
that's what they need. Yeah.
right. So, I wanted to ask, earlier you had mentioned that the children, they're not able to interact with their peers and spend time like they used to earlier.
Mm-hmm.
Because, earlier they were in a classroom situation and now they are having virtual classes. Even
Mm-hmm.
though they are all attending the class together, it's
Mm-hmm.
still not the same. Okay, some people are saying that there is a disturbance.
Yeah, I got some, but I think now it's working fine.
Okay, okay. So, even though they are attending the classes together, they're not getting that freedom to be able to chit chat, share about their day, share their excitement with their friends. So, at a point like this, what is it that we can do for the children so that they're able to get that? Because, for example, we use Zoom sessions.
Yeah.
They do not go beyond 40 minutes.
Yeah.
If you take the time for chit chat, then that cuts your
Yeah.
lesson into half lesson
Right.
time.
Right. So I think what one has to look at, and this is again, part of how one school can work on this, and outside school space, how, students can connect with each other, that's going to really play a role. So, if students can probably create, or we can help, create certain links, or maybe twice a week or thrice a week, or even during the day, if there can be one class where we say that, it's just about peer connection. So, one teacher moderates that part where she just creates a link for students to interact with each other, just share their lives, day-to-day stories, whatever they are doing. Teacher can facilitate it by, talking about something very candidly about what she did during the day. So that kind of a connection, once it's begun, and there's a sense of comfort
Right,
that children and students begin to have, it can be done again. So as
right,
and there are certain schools where there are classes slightly more than 40 minutes as well. So I always recommend that the last 15-20 minutes, please keep it just for a lot of unstructured conversations that students can have with each other. We cannot look at classroom in a way that we were looking at earlier. We
right.
have to have a difference in our approach, and really approach the situation very differently. And more than anything else, I've been mentioning that again in all my talks, that this is the time where mental and emotional well-being of students and for us is very, very important, because that is going to define the outcomes towards the end. So your learning outcomes, the academic outcomes, overall outcomes of various things are going to be defined by emotional and mental well-being.
Right, right. Okay, so you mentioned that the environment has changed. That brings me to the topic that earlier they were in the school space, so they
Yeah.
used to be the center of attention for everything, every decision a teacher would make. They were
Yeah.
the center of it. But now that they are at home, they are with their parents the whole time, and they are not the center of attention the whole time because the parents have to balance their work
Yeah.
as well as the children. So,
Mm-hmm.
how has that affected the children? Because I'm sure they're not used to seeing their parents work the way they have been working. So, how
Right.
is that? What kind of impact is that having on the children?
I think more than the impact, the concern that comes for parents is that when we are not engaged, they're basically on screen time. And that is a
Right.
concern that, goes a lot with most parents. And I'm a parent too. I mean, I can see that too. That when I'm engaged, it's an automatic, this thing for my child to also go towards the screen. Or even sometimes if I am engaged, and if and for me, because it's more about individual interaction, so I can't really have that kind of in between while I'm having a session to really see what she's doing.
Mhm.
So my husband, he contributes in that, and when he's working, so he will involve her, give her certain task, and we sit with her next to her, and then engage her. So it's about, as parents, how we can really balance these things out. So a lot of screen time which I have to schedule, I mostly schedule it in the time when I am working. So her
Right.
TV time, which we had decided, she wants to watch one movie a day, which is fine. 1.5 hours, that's fine. And some learning apps again, because for her it's her vacations going on right now. So some
Mhm.
learning apps that she likes to do, fine. Again, another 45 minutes to an hour. So, this would give me something like maybe 2 hours, 2.5 hours in a day for her as screen time, which I can, consider is absolutely normal in a time period like this, where we are looking at, again, a difference in the kind of, the time that she has.
Okay.
So,
Okay. So, what is happening is that everything is to do with screen time, unfortunately, because your work is happening with the screen, my work is happening with the screen. The children whose schools is still going on, they are having their classes online, so that's again screen time. And
yeah.
then children also during their free time, they either want to be on their iPad or the TV or playing games on the phone. So how do you balance out their screen time? Because a lot of parents have this concern that online classes, even though they are important, they are helpful, they are adding on to the screen time.
Yeah. And that's what I'm saying, that, we have to really approach the situation with that kind of flexibility in mind, that yes, screen time is going to go up a little. Along with that, and we are going to have to give some kind of a recreational time on screen as well for children, because then again, they would say, it's about online classes. I did not get my recreational time. It's about how it is for you and me as well. So we have to balance and accept the fact that this is going to be there for some time, till the time, we are looking at this online learning, where there going to be an extra time when it comes to screen. But outside of screen time, when you're working and you think side by side you can engage children, do that. Give them a lot of books to read. Reading is something that they can do while you are
Right.
with them, and balance the structured and unstructuredness of the activity. So when they are, having, after that, they would perhaps need, sorry, some disturbance.
Yeah, some disturbance was there. Could you repeat your last sentence?
Yeah. So what I was saying was that we need to really balance the structured and unstructured activities, like in school. You know it, that how one activity would be while they're sitting, the other would be about them moving around and doing something,
Right.
then again come down to sitting and then moving around. So that's how the energies are balanced. Similarly, the same thing pattern we need to follow at home. So if they're sitting down with the online classes, the next thing, as parent, involve them and encourage them to do something by running around, so that some energy is again used,
Right.
utilized, and then come back to the class.
Okay.
Similarly, when you are working, do the same thing. In between breaks, again, make them do certain things, run around, engage them into something playful. So that's how we have to balance. It's really, for each parent at their
Right.
home, how are they able to kind of routine for them.
It would benefit that the children have a routine which is set for them, so that there is some structure during the day, and then
Yeah,
the other part of the day can be unstructured, their free time for their leisure activities.
absolutely.
So what can parents do to reinforce this routine? How do they make the children understand the importance of routine? And what about how important is the involvement of children in forming that routine? That it should not be something that the parents are saying that in the morning
Absolutely.
do this, then do this, then do this, then this. But it has to be a two-way thing, wherein the child also says that this is what I would want to do during the day.
Yes, yes. So whenever we are making that routine, one, flexibility has to be there. Involve children in contributing what kind of activities they would like to be engaged in that routine, so that their willingness to do these activities is there. Also, you will also find them, they get bored after 4 or 5 days with the kind of activities that you've
Right.
added. So you will always have to revise, those creative activities, and really, involve something which is simple and fun yet. So I do a lot of these, on the go kind of things when I feel that she's getting bored. So for example, one day I just told her that, why don't you sit down and make some music with utensils. Should on the slab, she picked up all the utensils, whatever she could come up with, and I
Right.
had some
Right.
bamboo sticks, straws. So she started making music out of it. For 1 hour she kept doing that, and she was happy because there was something different and something new.
Right. Right.
Similarly, the other day she learned how to blow balloons and tie it on her own. So it's a new skill that she learned. Very happy. So for at least a week, what she would do is every day she would blow a few balloons, cut it by its end, and then she would see how it's just fluttering like a rocket. The balloon that she's cut with the
Right.
scissors. So for children, it's about the novelty, and they
Yes. Yes.
really, and the enjoyment that they can have in simple things that we do. And as
And
long
they
as
get
parents,
excited very easily. So it's not very difficult to think of these little things.
Absolutely. It's just as parents, we need to be less worried about them making a mess. They are going to make a mess right
That
now.
actually brings me to the topic of painting. I remember we went to college together, and the first thing that comes to my mind when I think of you is that Mimansa is a painter. And I'm sure you love painting and you must be painting with your daughter. So, how about telling me what are the different kinds of activities related to art that you do with your daughter and how it helps her during this time?
So, I have not done painting for a long time, but I think my daughter is a better painter than me. So, what she's started doing, and I've just facilitated with her, is we bring a canvas and we just bring some flowy colors, and she
Mhm.
just puts a lot of colors, and then she's rotating the canvas so the color, goes here and there, and it leaves a different impression. And then she would just pick something just to make certain impressions. So, it's something which is very, again, unstructured, not something
Right.
that she has to really draw and color, something she's just enjoying with the fact that it's just flowing, it's colors. So simple things, again, go away from most conventional ways of engaging children. Try and look
Right.
for novelty, for different things, and children will enjoy it with you.
Okay. So there's this question from the audience that, sometimes it's very difficult for parents to think about all of these activities as to how to, what to do. It
Hmm.
doesn't come to them so naturally. So
Hmm.
where can they get that support from?
So when I think, if we let children choose and we ask them to choose, I think children can also come up with a lot of different things.
Okay.
For me, for most of these things, she's thought about certain things, the balloon and all of these things, because children, they really are very exploratory in their,
Mhm.
mind. So as long as we give them that direction to explore and do, they are explorative beings. So let them explore on their own, as long as it's not harmful. Choose your nose and don't be very restrictive about it.
Right.
Alongside, there's so many things which are happening online. You can always go and check out on some of these
Mhm.
sites which are related to art and craft, because art and craft is something which is again
Right.
very joyful for children. As part of Fortis Mental Health, we do a lot of art and craft things on day-to-day basis, morning and evening, every day.
Right.
So
Right. On
uh,
Instagram, it's
absolutely. So a lot of online things which are happening. So you can always just go and look at and not complex things, something very
right.
simple. Because as parent, again, the moment it's complex, you feel you do not have the time to do it. So as long as it is simple, as long as it is playful, just do that with children. The day you feel you have a little more time, then you can try something more complex. I also do a lot of household things with her. She and I always say, for children, adults are the most interesting beings, because they see that we are all the time doing something or the other, whether it is in the kitchen, whether it, so just let them, make them also
They
part of
want to be
your
part
life.
of whatever you are doing.
True. So the other day, when she's 7 year old, but she said she wants to chop, so I got her a very very blunt knife, and I got her something, boiled potatoes to chop.
So
And but she enjoyed it, and she realized that she chopped something, and she clicked pictures of it and she sent it to her grandma. So it's just these simple things. And
it's a sense of
basic,
achievement.
absolutely, and it's basically these small things that children are doing with us right
Yeah.
now in our day-to-day lives, which we
Right.
generally call very mundane and they find very mundane. They are
Right.
finding the excitement in that, and that is the beauty of this time. I feel that she feels
Yeah.
cleaning is so good. She one day dusted the house, the other day she helped me in kitchen, the third day she made the list of grocery things. These are
Right.
life skills that and you
Yeah.
need throughout life. And
And I
the
think these
kind.
activities are actually helping them to inculcate the good habits. Like you said, that they're life
Absolutely.
skills, but they're also good habits that you should keep your surroundings clean, or you should help your parents in the kitchen. And along with all of those things, I think these activities are very helpful in improving their fine motor skills, their hand skills, what they do.
Absolutely.
And to especially the art and craft activities, it helps to build on their concentration, because
True.
many a times I know parents and teachers, they both say that this child is not concentrating in the class, we have to keep reminding them, focus on your work. So during these activities, what happens is the child doesn't even realize that they are learning all this. They
True.
just focus on the fun part, but it's actually helping them.
Absolutely.
Right, right. So there's this question from the audience that, what if a child gets a mental breakdown? I think it's referring to the part that, during this situation, we keep saying that, this has, with the lockdown, that this has become the new normal.
Mm-hmm.
So for adults, it's still easier to understand and adjust. But for a child who wants to go down and play, be on the swings, go for cycling, it's very difficult for them because sometimes, they are bound to feel frustrated and they
Yeah.
might throw a tantrum at that point of time, especially in the case of, let's say, special needs children. They might not have the required words to be able to express themselves, so instead of a tantrum it might actually turn into a meltdown.
Yeah.
So how is a parent supposed to manage the situation then?
Again, like I said, Kanika, the fact is that these are, I mean, children thrive on routines, and the fact that that is not there, and a lot of playground time, because that is not there, we do end up seeing that, how children are also missing some of these nuances of their life that would really
Right,
create that
right,
sense of playfulness. And which is why, all these examples that I gave, they actually come along very, they're very playful in their own way. And
right.
if I so I live in an apartment. I don't have a balcony, okay, and I don't have a veranda. But I ensure that within the house also there are certain things that she's doing. So if actually sitting in her room. If I show her room right now, it's in a mess because just before yesterday going off to sleep, she decided to just pick up a few things. And so it's just about, as
Right.
parents, as long as we are not confining them in terms of our expectations with what
Mhm.
children need to do in the ongoing time period, that is something which is very, very important. So
Okay.
I made my house in a way which is very child friendly. She can run around, she can jump around, and she can do things that she likes to do over here within the physical space, this empty spaces that I've created within the house. And yes, sometimes anytime during the day, in the evening or some other time, I just play some of these applications that she again some disturbance happening here.
Yeah, you'll have to repeat the last sentence.
Yeah. So what I was saying was that again, certain things that I would do during the day, apart from screen time, I would play a music, something which is again playful, chirpy, just for her to just dance on it, or something like, Go Noodle is an application that I learned from her school that children can see and then just follow and just, follow the steps which are there.
Mhm.
So all of these things are just, ways of how physical activity can be involved in their day-to-day life. So that's what we really need to think about, because for children, physical activity is a must.
Mhm.
That
Right,
that's
right.
something that also keeps them, very, very involved and engaged.
Right, right. So, we say that parents are role models for their children. Talking about role models and the importance of routine that we've been talking about, let's come to your situation wherein you are currently in a completely different time zone.
Yeah.
You have joined us all the way from Georgia, but you are working with the Indian Standard Time. So, how does that impact your child's routine? Because I'm sure many a times you are up at 3:30 in the morning
Yeah.
taking sessions. So, is that having an impact on your child? Is that disturbing your routine?
So if I talk about a routine where you have to have an adequate sleep, I am not the good role model over here. But but yeah, I mean, I think I try and finish my work, in a time period where I am able to give her. So from afternoon till evening is when my engagement is with her. So if we are able to go out over here a little, so we do that. At home, there are things that we do together again. Like I said, that we do painting together. The other day we found this new kit. One of her uncles had gifted her crystal making, so we made crystal. So there are different ways of how I just engage with her. But the most important thing that I do with her, and I've done that not only in the lockdown period but even otherwise also, is just right now perhaps it's just increased more. Have conversations with children.
Okay.
I use any medium just to play with her at that time, but what I'm actually doing is engaging with her in a conversation, just talking about sometimes I would just quiz her on media related things, that you bought
Okay.
this thing, and you this is something that you like, and you want to keep buying frozen things, and you want to keep, why do you think you want to do that? Why do you think people who are making this are making only frozen things? Something for her to think about, something for
Right.
her to think out of the box, that why am I just buying frozen all the time? Why am I buying this particular thing all the time? If I am looking at certain applications, like I taught her how she has to look at the age whenever she's looking at downloading some of these applications, because she ends up using it sometimes on her own while I am in a session, and she
Mhm.
wants to come and download an application. So if
Right.
she knows now she has to click on something which is her age. So at a 7-year old, a child is able to decipher that. Till
Right.
5 years, a parent has to facilitate it. But from 6, 7 years, when children are using these mediums independently, we need to teach them media literacy skills from a very young age.
Right. Right.
So I spend a lot of time doing that, quizzing her on some of these things, other issues as well, that just to see the kind of her worldview, what she observes around her when it comes to I am me engaging in running the house, her dad engaging in running the house. What does
Mhm.
she observe? What kind of things he can do, I can do.
Right.
So all of these things that we keep talking about in our
Mhm.
life skills, whether it is gender sensitivity, whether it is media literacy, whether it is aggression management, I pick up any of these things.
Right, right. These conversations are very important. They
Absolutely.
should not be just about following the routine, attending classes, but these conversations are very important. Right, right.
Outside the routine, outside whatever
Right.
is happening, and what we end up doing in our day to day academics learning, we need to
Mhm.
look learning much beyond academics.
Right.
And that's what I basically do with her in all of this time that I spend with her.
So the topic of conversation brings me to the conversation which the parents find the most difficult to start, initiate, specifically in the context of special needs children. So what
Mm-hmm.
happens is many a times we have to recommend that the parents get a formal assessment done for their children to
Mm-hmm.
be able to effectively find out what is the challenge that the child has due to which the child is not able to perform in the class.
Mm-hmm.
It's very easy, for us professionals to tell the parents that you can go to so and so clinic or so and so psychologist and just get this assessment done, and we'll have all our answers and we will take things from there. But the biggest predicament that the parent has is, what do I tell my child? How do I explain to the child that where are we going? Why are we going? So how
Mm-hmm.
do they take up this conversation with their child?
So see, it has to be again very age appropriate, and an age where they know they are struggling with something. The conversation can be opened by saying that you and I are struggling with something related to these particular aspects, and you can pick certain some of those areas.
Mhm.
Children are aware beings. We sometimes feel that they don't know what they are struggling with, but when
Right.
they are struggling with a problem, they know they are struggling with something. May not be something which we specifically that they know which area, but they know they are struggling with any problem. So
Right.
that's
Right.
what where parents can open a conversation, that why don't we just go to this another third person who is going to just
Oh, can you repeat the last sentence?
yeah. So they where they're going to talk to you, they're going to use some play material with you, and we're just going to find some solutions to the problem that we are experiencing. This much is
Right.
enough. Children would be just willing to do it because they also want to get some of these things resolved.
Of course, of course. So, as a special educator, we have two ways of supporting the children during the school time. School time. So, what happens is, one is that we go into the classroom and we support the struggling child. What happens in that situation is that the other children in the class notice that this child is getting some kind of extra support,
Hmm.
and some children, they're not bothered what is happening.
Hmm.
Some can be okay, fine, he needs help, he's getting the required help or whatever it is. But
Hmm.
some can actually start teasing, bullying, or
Hmm.
pointing out that, ma'am, this is not fair, this child is getting extra help, that is why he is doing better, or you are
Hmm.
helping him on the assessment. So
Hmm.
how do you tackle that situation where you have to make the other children in the class understand what is going on, because the reaction of all of these children has an impact on this struggling child.
So I think building sensitivity is very important. And when you're talking about this example, I'm assuming it's more to do with teenagers, because that's where they have this understanding of there is a differentiation which is happening in terms of how you are delivering instructions, and how you are helping this child a bit more. So
We do
teenagers
it
need
for
to
the
be.
primary school students as well.
Okay, so when
Yeah.
it comes to primary school students, I think it's about having, and how can you involve instructions in a way that different students are benefited in a different manner. So, for example, when it comes to individualized instructions, for a child who's struggling with academics, it would be like you writing something on the board, like summarizing over there. So, a child who's having some kind of a learning problem can look at over there. In your own lecture, when you summarize in simple ways, so the children are able to comprehend. Some children would comprehend while you're giving the lecture, some would be able to comprehend it more from the summarizing part that you're
Mhm.
going to give. Then
Right.
again, sometimes the peer buddy system that we've been following for a very long time, sensitizing some of these other children in the classroom, how their support are going to also help and support these other peers of yours, in a and that kind of
So
motivation, how you
how
help.
do you actually sensitize these children? How do you make them understand that they need to be
that
sensitive?
that we all face certain struggles, we all have certain problems in certain areas, and we all need to support each other. So pick up examples where they may be struggling with something, and how certain kind of a support help them. The same way, these peers are having some struggles with these kind of things, and how is it that we can support them. So it's just about, in different aspects
Right.
of our lives, we may not be perfect. It's about just knowing where you're having that limitation and just coming together to support each other. Even
Right.
otherwise, I think what we part of curriculum, the kind of camaraderie that we can build, amongst peers, through sports, sport activities, through role plays, through group discussion.
The last thing I heard was role plays and group discussions.
Yes, and all of these things again would make them think from different perspectives, from other person's perspective. So again, that would help you build empathy through perspective taking. So some of these activities that we can involve in our classroom period, that would be very helpful.
Right. So, when the child is struggling with the school work, there are a lot of expectations that the teachers and parents have from a child.
Mm-hmm.
Many a times, parents are not able to manage their expectations as per the performance ability of the child,
Mm-hmm.
and that can feel like a lot of pressure and build on the anxiety, frustration of the child. So,
Mm-hmm.
in that situation, what can we do so that the child does not develop anxiety, or let's say avoidance towards the work,
Do
or
not
low
compare.
self-esteem?
What happens mostly
Okay.
is it's a comparison, and how it comes in our conversations when we are talking to children about their performance, that they begin to feel that their
Mhm.
performance is poor as compared to the others. So do not compare.
Right, right.
That's one thing. Be very specific on things that they are able to do well. Every child has certain strengths, every child has certain skills and abilities. The more and more we talk about those in a very specific way, so for example in maths or in science, some aspects a
Mhm.
child may be able to understand and do well, some they may not be able to understand and do well. So the moment, as a
Right.
parent or as a teacher, I am giving a specific reinforcement that you did really well in geometry, maybe algebra is where we need to work harder. So a child knows where they are lacking and where they're good at. Similarly,
You were saying
sim-
similarly?
similarly on a day-to-day basis, when there are things which are we are reinforcing, the more specific we are, children are able to absorb it better, and they're able to internalize it better, that as a child, these are the things that I have good in me. Specifically, I'm good at this, I'm good at cutting, I'm
Mhm.
good at solving problem maths mentally, I'm good at
Right.
orating. So those kind of specific reinforcements is something very important, rather than a good boy or good girl. That's very generic, and most children are not able to really understand what do they mean by that.
Right. So, we spoke about sensitization earlier. I feel the situation is a little different when it comes to teenagers, Because sometimes what happens is they might have friends who accept them even with all those difficulties, because by the time they reach the higher grades, high school, they also realize that there is some difference between them and their friends, and the friends also realize.
Yeah.
And even though there is acceptance, there is sensitization, they still might want to resist the support that they require. How do you make the child understand that this support is actually important and will be beneficial?
So, we all have certain resistances, and it is very normal to have those resistances when we are looking at support and help seeking. And that is particularly because help seeking is not something which is talked about very frequently. It is something which is again seen more as a characterization of the fact that I may be weak, he may be weak, he or she is not able to help on their own. And that can also sometimes come in our communication when we continue to put the responsibility too much on what change you need to make continuously when you are not doing well. So as parents, we need to really again talk about certain time periods where you and I might have struggled, and how we took support as a part of resilience. Resilience is not just about you individually doing things, but it's also about together taking support and coming back from wherever you've been falling. So support.
Showing the children that as adults we also need support, we also need help, and there's nothing wrong in asking for help.
Absolutely. So this is something important, and that's where children will also have a different approach to help seeking and will feel more encouraged to do that. And one of the parents had been asking on the chat that as single parents it may be very difficult to perhaps how can we really engage. I think what we need to look at again, building good support system, even for any parent for that matter, really need to work on building support system, which is, and most of us are single parents, because you cannot manage everything alone. That is not possible. And we keep hearing this adage that it takes a village to raise the children. It actually does take a village to raise the children. So don't hesitate to reach out to communities. So make a parent community, reach out to more single parents, how you can support each other, or maybe parents who have more support system, and how they can look after sometimes your child, even online for that matter. How can they support each other, engage them in some kind of a learning while you are engaged with some other work. Reach out to your friends, take help from even other parents for that matter, couples for that matter, your families for that matter. So when I am sometimes doing my sessions, and my husband travels a lot for work, and I'm alone managing my daughter at home, so I take help from my family. So she talks to my cousins, she talks to my parents, she talks to her grandparents, and at that time she's engaged with them. Sometimes she'll just put on WhatsApp, she'll do a group with all of them.
That's fun. Sounds like a lot of fun.
Yeah, so she will call all my cousins, and she will add her grandmother, and then she will say, I'm going to do a flute performance for you today. So this is the way of how we can help children again be engaged in a more interpersonal way as well. So really encouraging that interpersonal connectivity, even in a time like that, is something that can be very, very helpful. So,
and it can help enhance their social skills.
Absolutely. So do not worry too much about the screen time. I think this is the way and the medium for most of us to actually connect with the world outside right now. And which is why we need to stress less and less about the amount of hours that they're spending. Although, of course, it has to be reasonable. I'm not saying that, it can just go on and on. But we have to look at, that we are looking at a completely different time period right now. And there is going to be a little up in the screen time. For me, what is most important is that she's engaged with her with her family through screen time. It would be through screen time, there is no other way right now. She is having her leisure time also that she needs, reasonable, that she and I set that. Then she is also going to have some online classes which are going to start very soon. But then again, as a parent, I maintain flexibility in that. If she feels that she's not able to really engage in that, I give her the assignments, I don't download it for her. I talk to the teacher that, we'll come back with you for the assignment. She does it on her own. She gives it to me. We upload it. We send it to the teacher. So that kind of flexibility is something that we maintain, and we request from the teachers as well. And, we get that support. So
Okay.
these are the ways of how, we have to look at. And certainly I've taught her some media skills where she's able to filter some of these things, which I think is very important with young
Very
children.
important. Yes, definitely.
It's their second language. The other day she had this phone and she's actually organized all the icons in my phone as social, as I don't know how she did that. I have no idea. So for children, meet
They're
this
very quick
technology.
learners.
The technology and social media is their second language. So if we want to connect with them, we need to really learn this second language with them.
Yeah.
And but how they really need to use it. They know the language, but we need to tame it.
Right,
That's what we
right,
need to do.
right. The last question that I want to ask you is about bullying. Earlier
Hmm.
when children were going to school, they were, there was bullying face to face, like there would be teasing or there will be pinching, pushing, hitting, things like that. And with the whole increase in the screen time and social apps, it might be cyberbullying.
Yeah.
So, what is it that we can do as adults to protect our children from being bullied or from being turning into a bully? Because that
Talk
can be
about
really harmful for the child, mentally speaking.
talk about bullying. I think each and every parent should talk about what bullying is, what bullying experiences are, what does really happen in that, and talk to children about these things. And again, at an early age, where when they are having some of these conflicts, how they are responding to these conflicts, what happened with my child, what did my child do to the other child. It's very important to have these conversations with them and teach them, what is a respectful way to resolve conflicts. How would they feel if they were in a similar situation? Even
Right, right.
sometimes, children tend to, so bullying is also a cycle. If they've been bullied, they felt bad, they feel that they can do something this to somebody else as well. So again, helping them empathize with that impact, the impact that it had on them, and
Right,
how it is important that it is our responsibility then to stop it. So if you got bullied and if you felt bad about it, now it is your responsibility to stand up against it. So give
right,
children that kind of the ability and that kind of skills of how they can stand up to a bully. So at assertiveness training, saying no. And as a parent, we also need to respect their no sometimes, not always
right.
coerce it. What is a respectful way of having conversations, which again we need to have and model it in our day-to-day life with them. How to teach them being kind. So I often talk about with
I think
her.
that stuff is gone.
Yeah, with her, that sometimes if you don't like something, and she's also had difficult experiences with her peers. I mean, in a way that was very, very harmful and painful for her to go through. So that's an incident where sometimes I feel she does return to every now and then, and each time I do talk to her,
Mhm.
and I talk to her from a perspective, what does she understand from it? What do you think
Right.
you could have done? You did well, you can understand. And how to also help her in a very non-judgmental way build a perspective about even her peers, how they are young, they may not be able to understand certain actions and behaviors that they are doing. You understand it. It happens at your time.
Right. So, eventually, after a few months, hopefully the schools will be reopening once the situation is under control. Then it would be another transition for the children.
Yeah,
So, how do we prepare them for this transition?
all we need to give children is just the time. And again, in terms of our expectations, we have to go a bit slow. Not again just because the school has opened, load them with a lot of things. Give them the time to again settle into the routine. Like I said, children are very resilient, they adapt very well.
Right,
All they need is just the support and facilitation as
right, right.
adults, and just flexibility in our expectations that we have from them. That's good enough.
Good enough. Okay. About the going back to the bullying part, sorry. Just there are times when the children are not able to manage the situation amongst themselves by themselves, and they have to get an adult involved.
Yeah.
And sometimes the teacher might recommend that you could maybe consult the counselor, the school counselor.
Hmm. Hmm.
So how can the counselor help in this situation? What is the role that the counselor can play?
Talk to both the students separately first, help them understand. So the child who's bullying, help him understand his actions
Okay.
and his behavior. I'll just take a
Is it
yeah.
better now? Yeah.
Yes. How does his actions and his behavior and how what is it that he's basically trying to express over here? They both are actually dealing with low self-esteem. So I
Correct.
would work on their self-esteems for both of them, the one who is bullying and the one who is getting bullied. And when
Correct.
I begin to work on that part, simultaneously for the one who's bullying, I talk about the repercussions of how it has, impacted.
Okay.
A lot many times for some of these students who are a bully, they also tend to learn from their environment. So really looking at, the kind of interpersonal observation which they are having from their environment and where they may be picking up some of these aggressive ways of interaction, engaging with their peers, addressing that as well.
Right.
And at the same time, talking about what is a healthy peer relationship. How would they like to be respected? How they would like to be talked to? How they, and then how similar part. For the child who's getting bullied, I would work more on assertiveness skills. I
Okay.
would again talk more about, how to build one's self-esteem, how to role play to stand up to a bully, and then again, in some space where I know I worked with both of them, bring them together to again,
Mhm.
from turning from a bully to a buddy.
Okay.
That's also part of our campaign and program that we run as part of Fortis School Mental Health Program, Fortis Bully to Buddy program, and we've been doing this in several schools across India,
Okay.
where we talk about bystander, the role of a bystander when a child is getting bullied, and how what is the power of the bystander, peer support, and
Right.
again, the emotional consequences of what happens to a bully child who's the victim and even to a bully, and working on all
Mhm.
these aspects.
Okay. 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 And would you want to leave a message for the audience?
you know um and not about just COVID. I think what we really need to really look at is how can we really work through in this space with our children in a more playful way, continue to have
Mhm.
more meaningful playful conversations. I think that's one of the things that I really enjoy with children. They are very very curious beings. We need to just preserve their curiosity, their sense of exploration that they would like to have, and
Right.
just in our conversational way as well. I think conversation is one of the most strong skills, because we teach so many life skills in the kind of conversations that we have with children, but
Mm-hmm.
being non-judgmental, giving them the safe space to express and talk, listen to them a lot more. As adults, we need to really learn how to be good listeners. I don't think so. We are very very
Yeah.
bad listeners. So that's something that we really need to work on. And also, what I had actually taught my daughter on how to train me to be a good listener. So each time when I talk to her and my phone rings or something happens, and she thinks that I am getting distracted, I tell her to take my phone away, and she actually does it. So she just takes my phone away, she hides it somewhere, and she says, now you have first finish your conversation with me, then you can probably have
Yeah.
your phone.
So we need
So
to
she's
give them
taught
a
me.
100% attention.
Yes. So, she's taught me and turned me into a better listener. I mean, I do it with my clients, and then she says that, what about me? So sometimes, if you do not know how to be a good listener, just teach it to your kids, and they will just, teach it back to you. So
Right.
just be
Right.
open to that, learning from all of that, a lot of these things, and be playful. Just continue to be playful and just have enjoy time with them. Their mental well-being is your mental well-being is going to be really impactful for their mental well-being. So as
Right.
long as we are being good role models, dealing with the time period, any time period, with a sense of positivity, taking stress head on, facing it
Mhm.
and resolving it in a problem solving way, even our day to day lives, as parents, how we are interacting, keep our watch in our reactions and how we are responding and how we are retracting back from some of these mistakes and reactions that we make. Children will learn from all of these things, and they will learn to be empathetic. and kind.
True, true. That's very true. So, thank you, Mimansa. Thank you for joining us and sharing such nice games and activities and strategies to help the children. And I'm sure the parents were able to have some takeaway so that they can keep their children engaged at home. And we're really very happy to have been able to invite you.
Thank
And
Thank you so much, Kanika. So much good work that you've been doing in the area of special education is just so great, and to see that. And are you still doing your trekking that you used to do your during your college times? Is it still continuing, or
I
right now?
used to before I got married. But now, thanks to COVID, I have myself
Yeah.
thinking, oh, I want to get out of the house. So I just go downstairs for jogging. And that's how, I pretend, I imagine, wishful thinking that it's actually a mountain that I'm climbing.
How we mentally approach different situations is just
Right.
it's so great. Okay, pleasure to be here. It was lovely chatting with you.
Thank you. Thank you for being
Thank
here.
you.
Bye bye. Have a
Bye,
good day.
Kanika. Bye bye. You too.